We are about to blow up what you think professional development can be and what you think Title II funds should be used for.
Today I'm going to talk to you about one of the children in my first grade classroom. I'll call him Raul. Raul came experiencing a lot of trauma. He was angry, yelled at classmates, struggled to focus. He was bouncy, very bouncy. But most of all, Raul didn't believe he could learn. However, within the culture of our classroom, where 6-year-olds reflect, support each other, Raul came to recognize how he was feeling, to be able to plan for what he needed to do to fix things. It got to be where I could see Raul bouncing, struggling to pay attention to what was going on or focus on what he was doing, and say, "Raul, what's going on?" And he could say, "I need a fidget toy," or "brain break time, we need to move." Something that he could do to truly move himself along. He was empowered. Imagine that empowerment in every classroom across the country.
Cheryl's story is common in a restorative classroom. Our big idea is to utilize professional development time for restorative practices. We define restorative practices as an emerging social science that includes a variety of informal to formal ways of using these practices to build community and repair harm. And restorative practices values relationships at its core. When we think about Raul and how restorative practices was used in that classroom, with a 6-year-old child, he was held accountable, he's supported, he's valued, and he's empowered. When we talk about restorative practices, we talk about doing things with people, not to people. It's a wholly transformative practice that has the power to create systemic change where everyone is held accountable, supported, valued, and empowered.
This professional learning is intentionally focused on the needs of each individual school, the staff, the students, and the families, where they identify their own needs, exercising their voice, agency, and self-determination. This work is bottom-up, not top-down. It's local and it's responsive, most importantly, to the real-time needs of our students. This transformative approach to professional learning is absolutely predicated on autonomy and collaborative and distributed leadership, where every partner is involved and recognized as equal in the space, both in power and in responsibility. And this autonomy and distributed leadership does not exist in the adult realm alone. It is observed daily in classrooms, between adults and students, and at the student-to-student interaction level. This work is honored, protected, and prioritized across all grade levels every school day throughout the school year.
In order for this transformation to occur, we recommend that states demonstrate how Title II funds can be used for restorative practices professional development, as well as hiring a restorative practice coordinator who would maintain a repository of best practices, identify fully functioning schools, and identify practitioners who excel and can provide support to districts and schools. At a local level, districts will provide PD to everyone who works with children and families, and a restorative practice framework will shape district policy and procedure. At the school level, professional development will be ongoing and embedded. In order to ensure continuous growth, a variety of assessments would be implemented.
It's just one part of the West End's recent study concluded. Graduation rates rose 60% in schools using restorative practices compared to only 7% in non-restorative schools. Today we told you about Raul. There are millions of Rauls. Imagine this professional development can not just transform a school, but a community.
Rachel, would you like to begin?
A great ending on transforming the community. As we talked about actually transforming legislation with ESSA in what we do. I think you have a really comprehensive viewpoint of a strategy that's very difficult to define in 4 minutes. I think you did a really good job in defining a strategy that's much more comprehensive than what you were able to provide in this 4-minute period of time. I think embedding the families and caregivers and community in the process is critical. Your focus on student voice and the relationship between student voice and teacher voice is very empowering when you think about voice as a part of this process. Also, that focus on student-to-student level, I think that's another important consideration if we really are going to look at how we change the trajectory of student success in our cities and in our country. So, thank you. Thanks.
I thought it was a great presentation. Thank you guys for doing this, and it's such an important topic for us that we're not always willing to talk about. So, thank you for bringing it forward. And thanks for telling a student story. So I just, I think, through the lens of a kid, I told a story at lunch about a student I've worked with, and it had a little different ending than this one, but I do think that that's the way to tell this story. This through the eyes of a kid who has to interact with these systems that aren't always fair to that student. So. Just two open questions for you. Tell me how the teachers are dealing with this shift, because this is, especially somebody who has been teaching for 20 years, this is really a change from the discipline structures and things like that we've had in the past. So I imagine it's requiring a lot of learning. And so if you're going to give a longer presentation on this, that would be one question. And then, and given all the values and individual values, parental values that are a part of this, how are you dealing with parents who may not totally understand where you're going? So those were two questions that I just had for you, and we can talk at the celebration about that. Thank you.
I would say that, first of all, you had me at Raul. But I love the fact that nowhere in your presentation did you tie restorative practices to discipline. And I think that's what people think that means. And then the other piece is, what a way to bring families and communities back into schools. I think, we've spent so long creating systems that were not welcoming to parents who did not feel that they could advocate for their kids or had the knowledge to bring their voice in this way. But for you to create a plan that is almost dependent upon the voice of every single stakeholders, I think would be empowering, not just to teachers and students, but to families and communities, and really shift the way we look at education. Thank you.
Just quickly, I totally agree with that. I would just add on that the development of ESSA is supposed to be done with stakeholder engagement. So, I would play that up like that. That's the power of your presentation, I think. Two quick things. I didn't know if Raul was a composite character or a real kid. If he's real, I would just say he's real, because otherwise it seems like he might. Because you said, let's call him Raul. I don't know if he is real. I understand that there's problems around identification, but maybe there's a way to get around that, because I wasn't sure if he was real or fake. I'm assuming he was real. And then secondly, I wasn't sure if you were calling for this thing to happen in every school and money to be set aside for it, or we need somebody in case we want to do this, or this is a pilot, or just like more definitive about exactly what you want to happen.
Thank you. Thank you.